If you can stand instead of sit, stand. Let me talk to you a little bit more about swapping out habits. You're probably not guilty of starting out the day with a bagel and cream cheese. We're beyond the baby talk. These small swaps are gonna make a huge difference over time. A lot of this has to do with your phones. We're on the phone so much and the phones are wreaking havoc on us. There's no bigger return on your investment than putting money and putting stock into yourself. Welcome to the Single Digit Body Fat Series.
Strength is never weakness, weakness is never strength.
Figure out a way to just be less fat. And you know what that means.
What in the will happen if I go all in on this? Today I'm going to tell you how to get ridiculously shredded. Instead of 6 hours of Netflix, you have to be doing 6 hours of burpees if you want to get shredded. This is Mark Bell and welcome to the Single Digit Body Fat Series. Thank you guys for joining along. I was kidding, of course. You don't need to be that crazy. However, we're going to talk a lot about swapping out your habits. We're also not going to be talking about drastically swapping out your habits because that starts to get you into I'm going to start on Monday type situation. We don't want to do that. We want to have a plan that's going to be sustainable for us. And I'm going to mention this just for a moment, but I'm also going to talk about this in another upcoming video about what I'm doing currently with my diet. I am on a meat-based-ish diet. And the ish just means that I sometimes have things that aren't meat. I sometimes will have snacks and treats and things like that. I had some Nick's ice cream last night. You guys know what that is? Look it up. It just has, like maybe 50% less calories than like a Ben & Jerry's. So like I'll still have stuff. I eat legendary Pop-Tarts. I eat all kinds of things that are off plan. And some of you might be having a fit and saying, I can't believe he does this. Like these are highly processed, highly palatable foods. But let me explain why I do that. Because sometimes hanging out in the middle, while I agree that doing a carnivore diet or adhering to a camp and being keto keeps you no carb, and being on the carnivore diet keeps you away from processed foods. It keeps you on track. You're like, I'm just eating meat. And I do think that fasting and eating meat and going back and forth between not eating and eating meat, whenever you're hungry, you eat meat, and you end up with like some versions of intermittent fasting because the only thing that you're eating is meat. Now keep in mind, there's a lot of different types of meat that you can eat while on a carnivore diet. So you do get a little variety in there, but you don't have, for some people, for some points in their life, there's not enough variety or enough spark in there to really love the diet. And then therefore, what happens to a lot of folks, what can happen to me, is I go on the diet, off the diet. I kind of go back and forth, and I'll do, carnivore, and then I'll eat some pizza. I'll do carnivore, and then I'll have some Ben & Jerry's. I'll do carnivore, and then I'll eat donuts. I'll do carnivore, and then I'll eat cookies. Stuff like that. So I can do it for many days in a row, and I enjoy it, but sometimes it feels like too much. And for that reason, I have switched things up to where I don't really view things as much as like cheat meals and these kinds of things. So I stay more in the carnivore-ish category where I'm eating fruit. Yes, I'll eat vegetables. I eat salads. I have a little bit more diversity so that there's no cheating going on. And if I am to cheat, I just kind of allocate for it. But let me talk to you a little bit more about swapping out habits. I think most of us probably do pretty good throughout the day. I think many of you that are listening to this right now, you're probably not guilty of starting out the day with a bagel and cream cheese. You're probably not guilty of starting out your day with a bowl of ice cream. You also probably don't start your day with a bowl of cereal and orange juice and stuff like that. Like, we're beyond the baby talk. We're beyond talking about that shit, right? We're at another advanced level. And so we understand that like we need to have, some eggs and egg whites and chicken breast and lean sources of meat and so on, right? But where you might be messing up here and there is you might be trying to do certain things with your diet where you're not even necessarily paying attention to the amount of calories that you're consuming or over-consuming. Now, I don't really love the calorie conversation because as we lower calories, we tend to burn less calories. And as we eat more calories, we tend to burn more calories. But it doesn't always work in such a 1-to-1 ratio to where if we eat 10,000 calories, now the body's all of a sudden going to magically burn 10,000 calories. But if we continue to lower them, it does seem to slow us down a bit. It does seem to bring down our NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. You guys probably heard other people talk about this. And it could just leave you lethargic and stuff like that. So while I have talked on this channel before about reducing your fats, I want to make sure that I'm perfectly clear. I'm not saying to do this for long periods of time, but you can do this occasionally, and you can do it here and there. But in terms of swapping things out, let's start out with swapping out something really easy that has nothing to do with food. Let's say that it's 7:30 p.m., you finish dinner, you're doing the dishes with your significant other, and you're going to sit down, enjoy some television. You're going to watch, some streaming movie or series or whatever it is that you're going to be doing. Well, maybe instead of doing that for 2 hours, you look at your significant other and say, hey, want to go on a walk? And you make a pact with them and you have conversation with them, or with your son or with your dad or with someone that lives close by, or a friend or whatever it might be. And you say, hey, you know what? At night, I usually kind of shut down and I don't do anything later on in the evening. Once it's past, 6 p.m., I'm just like on the couch, not doing much. I eat, and then I eat some more, and then I eat some more, and then I go to bed. I think that's what a lot of us are doing, and we're sabotaging ourselves in the latter half of the day. Latter part of the day, we're sabotaging ourselves. Meanwhile, we did great throughout the beginning portion of the day. The first 75% of the day, we had 100% effort. And then the last 25% of the day is where we really dropped off. And we just fell off, and we weren't still moving and all these other things that we had ideas about. So very simply, maybe chop out 20, 30 minutes out of your watch time that you're going to do and go on a walk that's 10, 20, 30 minutes, and now come back, and you still have the remainder of that time to plop down on the couch and just relax, right? Because we still want to relax. We still want to chill. We still want to be able to do the things that we enjoy. And for myself, I love doing that with my wife. We sit down at the end of the day, watch a movie, watch a series or whatever, watch some football, whatever it may be, and we talk about our day and so on, go to sleep, start over, do the whole thing over again the next day. But that's a really simple swap. And there's a lot of other simple swaps that you can make. If you think about your diet in general and think about the way that you're currently eating, are you eating, a lot of cheese? Are you eating fatty portions of meat? Are you consuming full fat milk or full fat cottage cheese or full fat yogurts and things of that nature? Again, I'm not saying just to plummet your fats out of nowhere and to get rid of them all. I'm saying just try it for like one meal. Try it for one meal a day for a handful of, maybe for a week or two, and see if it's making any noticeable differences. These small swaps are going to make a huge difference over time. Let's say that typically when you have red meat, you normally have a ribeye, especially at something like a restaurant. A ribeye at a restaurant is going to be very expensive in terms of how much fat is in that thing. Not expensive in terms of money, but it's going to be expensive in terms of how many calories it has. So maybe instead of having that, maybe you switch over to a New York strip, or maybe you switch over to a tri-tip or some other offerings that the place has that's simply just not a ribeye, because a ribeye is usually the highest in fat. That small difference over time could be something that helps you to manage your body weight without you really ever feeling it, because it's such a small change. Another small change could be that you're swapping out, I think dressings and sauces, I think that these are things that unfortunately it's hard to swap them out because there's not a lot of great alternatives. But when you go to a restaurant, you would be surprised, most restaurants have balsamic vinegar. And instead of using ranch dressing, or instead of getting your ranch dressing on the side, which is a great move because you could have just half the amount that they normally pour on there, because normally they pour a ton on there, and that would be a great swap. But an even better swap is to just have no fat calories and just, look, the salad doesn't taste that great anyway. The only thing good about it is the ranch dressing itself. So just utilize a little bit of balsamic vinegar. Balsamic vinegar, by the way, is also supposed to be beneficial for your blood sugar. So it's kind of a win-win in a bunch of different ways. So there's another swap. Swap out your sauces with seasonings. So seasonings don't normally have a lot of calories in them, although you want to be cautious and pay attention to them because sometimes they can have sugar and sometimes they can have other things in them. Or you can simply swap out some of your barbecue sauces and some of your other things that you have with some G Hughes. G Hughes has like sucralose in it, which so it doesn't have hardly any calories. Something that you may want to be aware of though is that some people believe that what's in sucralose in some cases can cause people to be hungrier. So it's important to pay attention to these things and important to see how you feel after you consume some of these things. Having your appetite go up a little bit isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it just might be something that's on your radar. They believe that sucralose can potentially trigger your GLP-1, which is something that can help or that can drive some hunger. And so you want to be a little cautious with that. Same thing with your sodas and your Coke Zeros and all these different things. They have those artificial sweeteners in them. They could potentially do that to you. I'm not saying just to take my word for it. I'm saying, drink these things, consume these things, see how your body feels. Are you ravenously way more hungry, or did you not notice anything? You're probably not going to notice much. That's the case with myself. But I do like to just report stuff to people so that way they have the knowledge and that way they understand. If you start swapping out too much stuff and you start getting too lean, like if we swap out that ribeye for 99% lean turkey, then we're probably starting to make some mistakes because we're bringing our fats down too low. And we don't want to just plummet calories out of nowhere. We want to be able to mindfully and easily pull some calories out, pull some carbs in, pull some carbs out, pull some fats in, pull some fats out, and move them and manipulate them around in a way to allow us to hit the particular goals that we're looking for. Other things that you can swap out is just to try to figure out ways to move a little bit more. Microdose movement into your day. I see too many people that think that their workouts have to be in a gym, and they think that their workouts have to be an hour or half an hour or 2 hours, whatever my case may be, and they just don't. That's an old way of thinking. I think we need to move into a newer way of thinking. You can exercise outside. You can go for a walk. Another good swap, instead of just doing regular walks, do a weighted walk. Throw a little bit of weight on. If you don't have a weighted vest, just use a backpack, throw some books in it. It doesn't have to be complicated or hard. You can go on a walk with a 10-pound medicine ball. You can hold it on one shoulder and hold it on the other shoulder. You can go on a walk with a football, toss it around with a friend. Instead of just like not doing much on the weekend, which I know you're thinking like the weekend, I really love to just chill and relax and I love to just watch some football. Maybe instead of that, you go out and you play some football. You chuck around a football with a friend for a little bit. Just because there's a particular thing on TV or just because there's a particular event going on doesn't mean your whole day has to be crushed. Just because it's the 4th of July doesn't mean that you can't do anything in the morning, doesn't mean you can't exercise in the morning and then go and enjoy a barbecue with some friends and family later on. I think we have a tendency to just to think that we need to. A lot of this has to do with your phones, I think, personally, is that we're on the phone so much and the phones are wreaking havoc on us big time. All the scrolling that we're doing, we feel way more fatigued than is reasonably true. You're probably not really that fatigued. You probably really didn't even do that much for that day. But I think the phones can really take it out of you. It's a lot of interaction. You're not just scrolling. It's like that's costing you something. It's not just costing you time, but it's costing you your attention. And it's getting your mind to think certain ways. And as you think and interpret and are understanding information, you're going back and forth in your brain, that is very expensive for us. That is causing a lot of disruptions to our circadian rhythm as well. What the phones do to us, at night, it's not really the phone doing it, it's just us being addicted to it. So the addiction to the phone and having the phone in your bed, having the phone, in your bed, also disrupting your sleep due to the electromagnetic fields and some of these things. And I know some people are like, oh great, he believes in all this stuff. I just think, look, man, if something's a possibility, why not investigate it? You know, if something like, why do all these people have sleep apnea? Why are people having such hard time sleeping these days? Where's that come from? Is it all from the, I got no idea. Is it from the cell tower that was just put up recently behind your house? I got no clue. But it's worth trying to figure out, what could you do about it? So if I don't need the phone plugged in charging, which makes it give out even more frequency and more signals, and it doesn't need to be by my head when I'm sleeping, I can just simply put it somewhere else, or in my case, I like to put it in a different room. Maybe you don't have that luxury. I know some people have children, they're like, you know, I need to have the phone, you know, in my room, because if my kids call me, you know, my children, they drive and stuff like that. And so there might be situations where you do need the phone, but it doesn't need to be next to your bed. It doesn't need, that's another habit that's not even a habit swap. That's just like just get rid of that habit altogether. Your bed is not for your phone. Your phone is not for your bed. They should not go together, basically ever, in my opinion. So if you can't get the phone out of your room, that's fine, but just put it on the other side of the room somewhere. It's going to be better for you anyway if you're using it as an alarm, because you're going to have to get up and shut the damn alarm off. Something that I've done that might be helpful for you guys is I no longer use an alarm. I just make sure I go to bed at an appropriate time. So that could be another swap, is like, rather than, you know, figuring out, you know, setting your alarm and having this thing like kind of wake you up when you're resting really well, interrupting your sleep, just go to bed, you know, the best you can, 7-8 hours prior to whenever the time is that you need to wake up. There's a lot of other changes that you can make, and a simple swap for a lot of people that are still newer to this is to swap out your drinks. You know, this could be as simple as, like, rather than just like getting rid of beer, you hear how much people are talking, you know, very negatively about alcohol. Maybe just look at the calories of alcohol and figure out, how can I make some swaps? I have a friend a few years ago that lost around 20 pounds just from simply changing from beer to hard liquor. I'm not promoting that as any sort of health thing at all. However, losing weight is one of the healthiest things that someone can do when they're overweight. It can really improve a lot of your markers for health and all-cause mortality just by simply losing about 10% of your body weight. So rather than just saying, hey, get rid of it forever, and the same thing with the sodas. Rather than just like getting rid of soda or thinking, man, I can't picture my life without drinking some soda here and there. I've loved it my whole life. Swap it out. You know, take a Coke and swap it out for a Coke Zero. Take the Diet Pepsi, swap it out. By the way, Pepsi One, or Pepsi Zero, they call it now. I think they called it one because they were trying to be honest. It had 1 calorie, and all of a sudden the calorie disappeared. But Pepsi, their zero sugar is, I think it's better than Coke Zero. I gotta tell you, I discovered that when I was traveling. My daughter's the one that discovered it. She said, hey, you gotta try this Pepsi. And I was like, Pepsi ain't shit. And I tried it. Sure enough, she was 100% correct. I've seen a lot of people make huge strides by eliminating some of the calories that they're getting from their coffee, eliminating some of the calories they're getting from their soda, from their beer, and things like that. These are all simple changes. I think these are reasonable changes, especially because in this day and age, there's alternatives. There's alternatives to everything. There's alternatives to Pop-Tarts. Legendary makes the tasty pastries. They make the sticky bun type things, and there's all these companies making different protein bars, different chocolates, different this, different that are just maybe less calorically robust, or they have a different amount of carbohydrates in them. You know, some of these things are like keto, but they still have a lot of calories. So you may want to pay attention to some of those things. But Quest Nutrition, Legendary, they make potato chips and peanut butter cups. And I'm not saying that these are the healthiest choices in the world. These are still ultra processed foods that are hyper palatable, but they're delicious, and they kind of scratch that itch for you. They allow you just to swap your habits slightly. It's just a small change. And maybe you don't just make that change for yourself, but maybe you make that change for your children. These products, these things, they are more expensive, but if we start voting with our dollars for things that are healthier, you're going to see the aisles that are in Target and Walmart, they're going to continue to expand. Do you remember when you went to Target, when you went to Walmart years ago, all they had was Gold Standard Whey. You saw nothing else pretty much. Gold Standard Whey, multivitamin for men, prenatal for women, that was it. There was nothing else that was healthy in the area. There was nothing else that was calorie conscious or protein conscious or protein forward, right? Now, there's aisles and aisles of that there. There's, like I said, there's bars, there's chips, there's desserts, there's all kinds of nifty and cool things, and we're starting to see that in the freezer section as well. Recently I had some Porking Good, that's the company that makes the pork rinds. Recently I had Porking Good chicken nuggets. Unbelievable. Made with chicken breast and covered and dusted in pork panko. They're legit, they're really good. So there's a lot of swaps, and I do understand, again, sometimes we are starting to talk about a little bit of money, right? There's no better or there's no bigger investment, there's no bigger ROI, there's no bigger return on your investment than putting money and putting stock into yourself and your family and obviously you got to make reasonable decisions and reasonable choices, but maybe you swap out that Starbucks coffee for a healthier, less expensive decision. At my house, we have a really nice coffee maker. And I realize not everyone can afford the same types of things, but there's all kinds of great coffee makers. Maybe you swap that out so it's not so that you don't ever go to Starbucks again or anything like that. It's so that you can customize and make your own coffee at your own house. That company that makes the Ninja Creamy and the Ninja Blender, they have a Ninja coffee maker, right? Find a coffee maker that you like, find a type of coffee that you like, and then start mixing up different cool things at your house and make that a little bit of that will turn into a little bit of a hobby. That's what it kind of is for me. Like, I kind of have fun doing that. My wife has a lot of fun cooking up these weird recipes that she sees on TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that, so that we can make food swaps, so that we can take our normal pizza and let's try this cottage cheese flatbread. Everything's made with cottage cheese these days, right? But these things are great and they're fun and they're delicious, and it's kind of fun to participate in doing all this stuff with the family. The calories that people are getting and the different things that people get addicted to when it comes to their coffee is like super interesting, because when I help people with their nutrition, I help them with their diet, that's the first thing that they really get upset about. It's like, I can't have creamer in my coffee anymore. Sometimes these conversations aren't necessarily about the creamer. It's about the habit. It's about the habit that has formed. First of all, why do you need coffee in the morning when you just slept for 7 or 8 hours? You're tired, but you just were sleeping. Shouldn't you feel good in the morning? Like, shouldn't you not necessarily need 150 milligrams of caffeine to get yourself out of bed? If you do, that's just another area to investigate. No shame, no harm. I did it for many years, but now I have decaf. And I know some people are, what's the point of decaf? I still don't understand the point of decaf, other than I think that the whole thing is just a habit. But I like to mix my coffee with Total Carnivore Steak Shake. The protein doesn't denature because it's beef protein isolate, also has collagen in it. And I usually blend in the vanilla malt, sometimes the regular chocolate, or the mocha of the Total Carnivore Steak Shake. Pick yours up at withinyoubrand.com. Go and check some of that stuff out. Best protein shakes on the planet. Absolutely amazing. I know you guys will love them. The other thing that some of those products do that we make, the steak shakes and the Total Carnivore shakes, and even our hydrations to a certain extent, is they can be sweet tooth killers. Some of us need our sweet tooth just shot down, and it just we need to get ourselves to a point where that, not so much just like hunger, but that craving needs to be crushed a little bit. And I've personally found that protein shakes crush my cravings better than a protein treat. I'm not sure exactly why, but some of the protein bars and some of the different protein treats kind of just get my brain almost too excited because they're so good and so delicious that it kind of almost makes me want to continue to eat that way. Makes me think about like eating donuts or going off the rails and having some Ben & Jerry's or something like that. So I found that the protein shakes or even the Ninja Creamy, both of those things for me personally have been really beneficial in really keeping those cravings down. I want to tell you guys that, you know, when I was 330 pounds and I was coming down from 330 and getting to 290 and 270 and 260 and 240 and now in the 220 range, 210, 220 range, it was a huge battle and a huge struggle to get through all that. And the hardest thing was controlling my sweet tooth later on in the evening. And what I ultimately had to do is I was like, you know what? Why am I so attached to this sweet tooth thing? Like, why am I saying that I have a sweet tooth? What a dumb thing to do. You know, that's like a victim mentality type thing. That's something that's just gonna hold you back. So why would I embrace this? Why would I say, oh yeah, I got a sweet tooth? Why don't I just say, well, maybe I enjoy sweets a little bit more than the next person, but I can control it. I can do something about it. And that was really helpful, and that was monumental for me to make some of the changes. And what I'm seeing happen with a lot of people is that the goal that they have and their habits, they don't really match up well. Their goal is up here and their habits are down here. And we need to figure out, you know, how do I get the habits closer to here? And that's why this idea of swapping, it's gonna close that gap. You know, your goal is to lose 50 pounds, right? Your goal is to lose 50. Well, maybe by doing what I'm saying, you lose 20. And at least you got a couple steps closer. And now you've heard me talking about walking and about many different things that you can do to lose weight. And maybe you lose another 10 and you're getting closer. But maybe as you get closer, maybe the goals kind of change a little bit and you adjust and recalibrate. There's so many different things that I can encourage you to make swaps with. I did mention walking and walking with a weighted vest. Walking versus walking up flights of stairs is a totally different ball game. You're gonna burn way more calories. Going to places where you can walk hills is great. Maybe swapping out a workout, swapping out a lifting day with working on gaining a capacity to jump and sprint would be amazing. Now, that day that you do that, might take a long time for you to gain the capacity to be able to sprint. It's taken me about 2 years of working diligently and working on a lot of this long distance stuff that I've been doing for a while now. For me, I just needed that in particular because I went out to the track, I tried to do some sprints and I hurt myself twice and I was like, all right, well, I got to really take my time with this whole process. And so I took a giant step back and I said, you know what, I'm going to get into a little bit of distance running. I want to be able to run 5 miles. Then I ran 5 miles and then I went into I did like a 5K and then I did a half marathon and ended up doing the Boston Marathon and realized that marathon running's not cool because it makes you go way too far. And I think it ages you and makes you kind of look like shit. And then it also sort of can like soften you up. And I don't particularly love it. But I do think that some running can be really effective. So maybe you swap out a lifting day. Lifting, you're going to burn a nice amount of calories and you're going to burn up a lot of glucose and you're going to do a lot of great things for yourself. But I'm thinking that most of the people watching this probably already are pretty addicted to lifting. And so I would recommend and suggest get your butt outside. And that leads me to my last and probably best swap that you can make. There's actually 2 of them. Well, yeah, there's 2 of them. One is, if you can stand instead of sit, stand. And if you can walk instead of standing still, walk. Those are 2 huge things. But the biggest thing of them all, which I haven't even mentioned just yet, is this: to get outside. Get outside. Get outside, get outside, get outside. It's not just the sun. It's not just getting out during the day, although that is important and the sun is massively important. Get some sunlight every day. How much sunlight? I'll leave that up to you because we all have different skin types. For some of you, you might not be able to handle very many minutes in the sun at all. But I still want to encourage you to build a solar callus and to get used to the sun. Maybe if you're very fair skinned, you can only go out for a little while and you got to be in the shade. Cool. Maybe you got to wear special clothing, wear a particular hat to cover your body. Maybe you got to wear particular shirts and things like that to kind of make sure you're going to be okay and you're not going to fry from the sun. But I'm not a fan of sunscreen. I'm not a fan of any of these UV protective clothing or anything like that. But I'm just saying, maybe get in just like a regular t-shirt, throw on a baseball cap or some sort of hat that protects the shoulders and neck if you're going to be out in the sun and you have very fair skin. But getting outside is huge. Like right now I'm standing in like kind of a thing of like dirt. I'm here at the Arboretum in Davis, California, and there's nothing but trees around here. So this is a beautiful environment. Getting in nature has been shown time and time again to help with anxiety, help people with depression, help kind of calm people down, help people just really relax. You think about some of the greatest writers of all time, and they end up like disappearing, and they go into some log cabin in the mountains and they write, and they're next to like a fireplace and they're just enjoying the environment around them. And there's really nothing better than just getting outside. The things that the sunlight is going to do for you, it goes well beyond the scope of anything I can explain right here and right now. But it basically is just going to, in short, allow you to be way more efficient with the energy that you consume, the energy that you take in. The sunlight is our life light, and it's important to get around the sun as much as you can. Getting outside, getting outdoors, getting next to dirt, getting next to grass, getting next to trees is all super important as well. And so if I was to hand you your phone and I said, the more that you use this, the more benefit you're going to get, the more energy you're going to get. The more that you look at this blue light and the more that you mess around on your phone, you're going to get more out of it. You're going to burn fat, you're going to be healthier, you're going to look better. All these different things are going to happen. All these positive benefits are going to happen. Easy peasy, right? That'd be really easy because we're already so addicted to the phones. Well, guess what? Human beings were designed to be addicted to light. That's why we're addicted to our phones. That's why we're addicted and hooked to the TV screen. It's built into our system. So if you work on this habit and you swap it out with whatever other habit you had before, pop out of bed, do your best. I know we all live in different areas. Do your best to see the sun come up. The sun might come up behind some building, or the sun might come up behind some trees, or you might have to walk somewhere to see the sun come up in the morning. But it is a beautiful, majestic thing, and I guarantee you that if you start to do that, if you do that for 3 days, 5 days in a row, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. You're like, son of a bitch, he was right. I'm addicted to it. You're going to be pissed off when you miss the sun not coming up. Look, it doesn't have to be, there's not some magical thing going on right when the sun pops up, but it is beautiful to see the sun coming up. It's also a beautiful thing to see the sun set. So do your best to see both of those things. What I'm telling you is, if you do that over a long period of time, you just try to get yourself, your family, your friends, the people you love and care about, get outside. If you just continually do that day in and day out and just think, oh, I'm on my laptop, oh, I could be outside. Oh, I could put a desk outside, in my lawn and I could be in the shade, but I should be outside. All the blue light that you're getting over and over again can ultimately have a negative impact on your eyesight. If you're outside and there's other spectrums of light going on while you're getting that blue light, it will hurt you less. So that's some of what we're trying to do here. Getting the sun is an electromagnetic field, but it's a very powerful and a very strong one, and it can offset some of the negative, some of the non-native EMF that we're getting blasted with each and every day. It's hard to really just like put into words what getting outside will do for you, but more often than not, when you're outside, you're usually doing something. There are a bunch of little hacks that you can do, and I'll just end with a couple of these. Even in your car, which I don't want you to necessarily do, I want you to get out of your car and see the sun. I want you to walk. I want you to move. But even in your car, you can just roll the windows down in the morning, let some of that light come through. If you have a sunroof, even better, get that thing open. The windows in your car block a lot of the UV light. So we want that UV light. We want to get that. And you guys have listened to Andrew Huberman talking about getting that sunlight and getting that sunlight in the eyes and what it does for our circadian rhythm. It does so many things for the leptin, melanocortin pathway, which a lot of these things have to do with like hunger signaling and all kinds of stuff. And there's not much that's known about it right now. The only guy talking about it right now is Dr. Jack Kruse, and he sounds like he's completely nuts because there's not a lot of other people really backing him up. But you're going to hear more and more about this. And if we can get these free things, that's the thing, is it doesn't cost anything. It costs you nothing to get outside. It costs you nothing to roll your windows down, get some of that air in your car, get some of that breeze, again, I realize we live in different areas. You might be like, I'm in the city, you don't want to get the air that I'm getting. No, we always want to try to get the air. Try to get the air, try to get the sunlight coming through the car. But here's another hack. If it's cold out, roll those windows down and have an Eskimo party. Roll those windows down. If you're wearing a jacket, before you get in the car, take the jacket off. Get chilly, get a little cold, get a little goosebumps for you. Get yourself cold adapted. So these are all little things you could do. You could be so tired on your way to work, but if the sun is out and it's cold and you roll the windows down, by the time you get to work, you can be fired up. You're going to feel really good. Or if you're on your way to a workout. So there's a lot of these little swaps, and that one's not even really a swap. It's just like something you can do, on your way to work very easily. So for me, it's been transformative for me to go on walks over a long period of time, getting outside, seeing the sunrise, seeing the sunset. I know this is a lot, but I'm asking you to take it one step at a time. Take it one day at a time. Take it one thing at a time. Because if we start to look at the many different things that we're trying to make ourselves responsible for, and we're trying to align everything up with our goals, it's going to be so hard to meet our goal. But we don't want to think about things in goals. As James Clear points out, we want to think about what's the systems, what are we going to put in place that's going to help get us to achieve our goals. And it's going to be the habits that you start to bring in. And if this is let's say this is your bad habits and this is your good habits, maybe we just go like this, right? And maybe over time we get these things that used to be like seesaw and back. That sounds reasonable to me, right? We all do a little bad. We all mess up here and there. We all make mistakes. We're all just trying to do the best we can, right? And so when you're trying to do the best you can, sometimes you're like, man, I need reprieve from this. I need to just relax. And so you're going hard on something, you're going hard on your diet, and then you're like, man, I just need like a little break from it. You're probably right, you probably do. And so a little bad will come back in. Good habits, bad habits, and you kind of start going like this. But over time, everything is still working you towards your goal. Because the bad habits, sometimes what they'll do is they'll allow you to stay in the game longer. Remember what I mentioned earlier about how my diet is more carnivore-ish nowadays. It's not, 100, it's not so locked in that I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait for this diet to end. Because you know what? With my diet, there is no end. And with the things that I'm working on, there's also no end. There's no end to this health journey for you either. And so I think it would be in your best interest to start to look at some of these things the way that I have. I've had so much success with this, and I've been able to help a lot of other people with this. I'll finish on this last note, and I promise this will be the last note because I've said this is the end many times. My friend Brandon, who owns Strict Vision Athletics, he's had 0 cases for himself, his 0 cases and 0 setbacks from having Bell's palsy about a year ago. He and I have been friends. I communicated with him a little bit, and he was telling me about this issue that he had with Bell's palsy. I said, I can get rid of it just like that. Well, I didn't get rid of it. My friend David Herrera stepped in and helped him. But you know how we got rid of it? By getting the right light environment. Light, dark, magnetism, cold, hugely influential on what the body can do. I've seen it heal, not just Brandon, but I've seen it heal a lot of other people too. There's a lot of amazing things it can do. So I just want to start to make you guys more aware of that, because you're going to hear me talking about this more and more as time goes by. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Thank you guys for following along. Catch you guys later.